What's going on, guys? What is going on? 1 second here. I'm just trying to send Jesse his invite. So just bear with me. Waiting for Jesse to get in here. I get kicked back the first time because I wasn't live yet, but we're live now. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, I share my screen. What am I looking at? We'll do that in the meantime. All right, so just waiting for Jesse to tune in, guys. How's everybody doing? How's it going? Make sure that we're doing good here. We are live. We are live. All right, so while we wait for Jesse, let's have a look at what's going on. Market is kind of having a little bit of a correction. Bitcoin's 49.1. It's not too far off of 50K. We'll be back up above there, guys. We'll be back up above. JASMY holding 2059. Very nice, guys. Very, very nice. Jesse, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, man. How's it going?
I was just talking crap, trying to kill some time till you got here.
Hey, I noticed, the last time we were chatting that it was stuttering along. Am I stuttering through this thing, or are we smooth? This looks a lot smoother.
This is very much smoother, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. No lag this time.
Good. Okay.
I got us live there, so that way that people can ask us some questions that we can get to as we kind of go along.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So how's it going today?
Oh, pretty good, man. Pretty good. I'm trying to, every day, but Mondays are my busiest. I appreciate you making the time for me today, brother.
Yeah, no problem. I know. I think we're both pretty busy in our personal lives. Sometimes I feel like I'm just like bouncing all around the room, man, between different things. But I wanted to come back because I didn't know if anybody knew, but our part two kind of ran into technical difficulties from the other day that we recorded a part two and then we didn't have it.
Yeah, that was me. That's my bad. I can't believe I did that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, that's fine. It's funny. I've actually done that before, where I was interviewing somebody at one point in time, and we did like a good hour and a half, 2 hours, and then at the end I was like, wait a minute, I never turned the sound on or something, so there was no sound for the whole. Oh my God. It's like, come on, man.
The minor things you forget to do cost you, eh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I'm just kind of sitting here and this guy, so I'm not going to call him out or anything by name, but there's like this kind of stuff is scary to me. I just wanted to mention this to you and get your thoughts on it. It's kind of scary to me, the mindset of some people who will just like basically listen to someone or someone's on YouTube, and then they just develop they kind of parrot an opinion of a project based on what somebody else is telling them with literally zero, research into the project. And it's kind of scary because that tells me whenever I hear, them talk about, how to be an accredited investor, the reason you need to be an accredited investor is because we're not mature enough and like mentally. And after being on Crypto X and seeing some of the stuff that I see, or that I'm hearing, like stuff I'm reading today, you're kind of like, I get it. It's like a high school locker room sometimes, and you're just like, like this. I'm not gonna give the name of the guy, but he asks, he's in my Discord, and he says, I don't understand. You don't need to buy JASMY, just buy KASPA. My first thought is I'm trying to be respectful to him and stuff, and I'm like, first off, anyone who tells you to just buy one thing is setting you up for failure, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Like I remember.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I remember with Terra Luna, when they went down, I was diversified across about 8 or 9 projects, and when Terra Luna went under, I lost money, but my portfolio ended up rebalancing inside of a couple of months because I was well diversified. Had I been all in on Terra Luna, and I don't care what anyone says, no one saw Terra Luna crashing. At the time, everyone was talking about a $600 Luna, right? Like,
right. Yeah. Luna at the time and kind of before that was a good project. I had covered Luna, and it was legit. I owned it for a while. The funny thing with Luna was I think I had before it ever even went on its run at one point, I was just like, yeah, I'm done with Luna. I'm moving on, and just through dumb luck, I kind of avoided the crash. But what took that one down was the algorithmic stablecoin and that whole process that somebody basically figured out a way to crash it, and it crashed everything. And look at the fallout from Luna. Like, gosh, talk about collateral damage all across the whole crypto sphere. But I mean, there were multiple people that they had their whole bag in Luna. I mean, everything was in Luna and lost everything on that one. So yeah, I mean, it's the wild, it really is the Wild West, right? Crypto is a totally different ball game. And I mean, something like Bitcoin, if you're going to stuff all your money into anything, that's probably the one. The rest of them, you really are kind of gambling. And I think you do need to diversify for sure,
Yeah. Like, because you never know. You just don't, especially in crypto, right? And as much as I love KASPA as a project, I hold KASPA in a rather large size bag. One thing I've noticed about people in the KASPA community is I'm seeing a lot more people saying that it's like a theme line that they use. It's like the slogan for KASPA: don't buy X, all you need is KASPA, right? It's like, no, diversify for the love of God, right? Like,
so here's what I would say on that front. All things in crypto are not always as they appear, right? Like if you go to CoinMarketCap and you look up KASPA, there's probably a bunch of comments exactly like that, right? But you don't really know who these people are, how much they're holding, if they're being paid to influence, yes or no, if it's a bot, yes or no. That was one of the things I learned early on, in a lot of these, and I think it was, I don't know if you're familiar with BitBoy and his epic fall from grace, but at one point he was charging something like $40,000 for him to pump your project. And he got a bad reputation in the crypto space because he was always pumping poo coins to his followers, and then they all get into it like Ben coin. I mean, come on. I mean, granted, you should be able to infer that Ben coin is complete garbage on its own without him telling you anything. But regardless, he was still over there telling everybody to buy Ben coin, right? And it's like, well, why is he telling you to buy Ben coin? Well, it's because he's making a ton of money off marketing this thing. And, like even now, he got fired from his own company, he got arrested, he's getting divorced, all these things. And supposedly he had amassed a $40 million fortune that he lost.
wow.
And so he didn't make $40 million from trading. The vast majority of all of his trades were garbage. Where he made the money was in the marketing, right? And so when people come along and they go, oh yeah, but like you said, KASPA or bust or whatever. And not to say it's just KASPA. I mean, it could be a whole ton of different coins. There's a bunch of them like this. You never really know where this person is coming from who's saying that to you. And I think if you're new to the space, if you're kind of a novice at investing, or if you're a younger person, whatever, I mean, you really don't know. You just kind of see it and you go, hey, I should get some of that, right? Like, I joke with my dad sometimes that he used to really like, I think it's the channel, it's like Invest Answers with James, I think it's the one on YouTube. And he really liked it. Yeah, and James did a April 1st, fools, fooling you, April Fool's video. And he gave you like the 3 worst coins possible, and it was like a big joke. And my dad actually wrote them down, and he actually was like, Jesse, what do you think about these coins? And he starts giving them to me. I'm like, Dad, I'm like, that coin is SHIT. Like, you get the joke here, right? It's April Fool's Day. And he was like, what? And I'm like, yes, April Fool's Day, April 1. And he was like, were you serious? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that entire video was a joke and you took it seriously.
I used to watch a little bit of Invest Answers. He was he's got a bad history himself too, right? I remember he was shilling Luna like crazy. There was a couple others. He called for the fall of KASPA just before it pumped from like 3 cents to 15 cents. Like, there was like he's got like a history of that kind of thing, right? But again, it all comes down to, like you said, the motivations, right?
Right.
That's why I never.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
That's why I never. I mean, you probably get them too. I get emails all the time from projects, right? Hey, we'd like to talk about a collaboration with our project. It's so great, blah, 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 right? I never take any of them, right? I will never let a project pay me to talk about their project. The only projects I tend to talk about are ones that I'm actually have my own money in, right?
Right.
So that's why my followers know, listen, if you're going down, I'm going down with you, right?
That's how we joke about JASMY, kind of in all, those of us that have been following it forever. It's like, we're either, on the nicest cruise ship and we're about to take a trip around the world, or we're on the Titanic and we're going straight to the bottom of the Atlantic.
Either way, we're all in the same boat, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the other thing that this guy I was telling you about was saying. He said, so JASMY's down 99% from its all-time high, and nothing ever recovers from that. Plus, there's no catalyst. Now, to me, those statements say a severe lack of research, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because first of all, nothing drives me crazier when talking about JASMY is to when a fudder reaches to the all-time chart for their point, because they talk about it out of context, right? Why did it drop down 99%? They like to imply that it's because there's something fundamentally wrong with the project. That's why it went down, right? Or that the team rug pulled everybody and took all the liquidity out of the project, when it's not the case at all, right?
Right.
So your first argument is out of context, first of all.
Yeah. And not all charts are created equal. Okay. So you could take 2 projects, stack them up next to each other, the exact same chart, and they could be completely different. They're different in terms of their supply, in terms of like with JASMY, right? Like, how much of it is out there, right? 99% or whatever it is now, is out there. You could take another project that has a great chart and maybe only 60% of the supply is out there. So are those 2 things created equal? No, because they basically have different tokenomics in them, So you can't just look at any chart and say, well, this one is bad because it went down. Well, I can look at every chart in crypto and show you where it's gone down, right? I mean, especially this past couple of years, in terms of just about everything other than Bitcoin spiked and now it's gone down. and everybody's kind of waiting for that rebound back up again, right? So yeah, so they're not created equal with other charts. I mean, you got to do a little more digging than that. You got to see like what the market cap is on this coin, where it's kind of the long-term trend, right?
Well, exactly. And the other part of it is to say no catalyst left. And the implication there, as I read further, was that, well, it's already listed everywhere, right? If you think that listings is the only thing that matters in terms of catalyst for a project, you know what I mean? Like you've got you really haven't been in crypto long enough, in my opinion, right?
Well, look at Bitcoin, right? So if you compared that same logic to Bitcoin, Bitcoin's listed on everything, right? I mean, outside of just new exchanges randomly starting, but is that a catalyst mover for Bitcoin that, you know, you and me open an exchange tomorrow and we list Bitcoin. Does that show on the chart? No. It doesn't matter, right? So what moves Bitcoin today? Well, it's the scarcity, it's the halving, right? It's the deflationary aspects of it. Like that's what's moving Bitcoin. Outside of which, you know, is the absolute S ton of money coming into it through all the ETFs.
Yeah, which is absolutely crazy what's going on right now. Like with the outflows reducing every day, and like the fact that the inflows are up like nine. So I think it's like 9 times more Bitcoins being bought up on a daily basis than is being produced.
That's 12.
Is it 12 now? That's crazy. Like that is nuts, man. And I don't think people understand the magnitude of that long term.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about that today because I've been thinking a lot about this, and it's the term of TVL, right? Total value locked. Okay. So your TVL. So that's like if you think about a project that has staking, for example, well, how much money is locked up in staking, right? That's the TVL. And you'll see that like the cryptocurrencies that tend to take off are the ones that have larger and larger and larger TVL, right? And like with we talk a lot about JASMY. You could say this is the number one knock against them right now if you really break it down. How much is their TVL? Well, technically it's 0, right? Because nothing's locked. Okay. Now there's plenty of people that own it. There's over 60,000 holders, but there's nothing really locked anywhere, right? Likewise, if you think about Bitcoin, like there are a few projects out there that will lock Bitcoin for some point in time. But this TVL idea, like when you go back to Bitcoin and especially when you think about these ETFs, right? So we're pulling 12 times what we're producing off the market every day, and that's compounding. So this mountain is just building, right? Of all this money that it basically is kind of like a TVL going into Bitcoin, right? And you think about, I think when you and I talked, I don't know if it was in part 1 or part 2, we talked about like retirement accounts, right? And I mean, your retirement account, do you want it in US dollars that are going down in value, or do you want it in a Bitcoin ETF that's going up in value, right? So if they can tap into the Bitcoin ETFs through retirement accounts, holy crap. I mean, you talk about that mountain continuing to build, right? Till at some point, everybody is kind of like looking at the holy grail of Bitcoin passing gold at some point. And I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, it really it makes too much sense, and the long-term trend hasn't really deviated away from that. So TVL, Bitcoin-wise, massive heading that direction. And, some of these other ones, like, I don't know, like a Cardano, they're staking there, Ethereum, staking. you know, that total value locked, that's really what builds. And it's basically like your long-term, your long-term reserves are getting larger and larger and larger and larger, right? Is sort of the trend here. And so with JASMY, if you could ultimately lock it, the way I understand this, the super wallet and the JASMY chain, is that you would lock your coins into the super wallet, and then you would get utility coins on the chain, right? So therefore it'd be TVL.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, that, you know, it's a little bit different depending on, but overall you can kind of see where it's going, you know?
Yeah, those JASMY coins that you have to lock up to have access to your PDL, right? Those are taken out of circulation as well, from my understanding. They're calculated as, like you said, TVL, right? So they kind of, so really, when people ask me about the lockup, I'm like, well, to be honest with you, regardless of what the JASMY, the company, kind of locks up, we're also looking at really the potential for the additional lockup with the utilization of the JASMY chain is almost like unchartable, because if institutions and retail investors start locking up their coins, if we do reach 107 million or more active PDL addresses, that would mean that all those people that have those active PDLs would have to have JASMY coins locked up and taken out of circulation.
Mm-hmm.
Which, massive potential there.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's not.
I think, you know, the part. I think the part that maybe is hard to grasp is kind of like, what is your growth rate in relation to your locked up coins, right? Like, that's kind of what everybody, I don't think anyone truly knows. So to kind of like give you an example, you know, some projects will have token burning, right? So they're taking out tokens. So Ethereum is burning now. BNB is burning. But what is the actual effect of that burn on the price in relation to it going up with fewer supply, right? And maybe that graph is a lot lower to begin with, and then it gets, you know, steeper as time goes on, right? And maybe that's how Bitcoin ultimately goes. I don't know. You know, when you talk about locking up, when Cardano made its moves, it had like 80% locked up. I mean, that was a lot, you know. The JASMY team kind of projected somewhere around 70%. So yeah, that'd be awesome if they could attain that at some point. It's not going to happen overnight. You know, we're not just going to like flip the switch and go, hey, it's April. Guess what? 70%. You know, that's not happening.
Your $100 in JASMY is now worth $1 million.
yeah. It's not going to happen that way. But the more they can lock up, the better for things trending upward. You know, you're just trying to get that steady kind of hold. You're trying to. This is what they refer to as like game theory, right? You're trying to incentivize people to hold your token for some reason and keep it held, and then that should increase your value, right?
Yeah. Well, that was the other part of what I had replied to the gentleman who said that there's no catalyst. I said I was like, okay, so I don't know, and I just fired off like 4 or 5, right? Just because, again, he's talking about no listings. I'm like, I don't know, a JASMY chain, a PDL, a lockup. Like, what are you talking about? Like the carbon credits exchange, like this, and this is all coming up in the next couple of months. I'm like, what are you even talking about? You know, in terms of no catalyst, and that shows a severe lack of research, right?
Yeah.
And it's that's why I say it's dangerous out there on X, on YouTube, whatever it is. People like to say things like it's some sort of intense fact that they know for sure, and they say it with such passion, and you're just like, you're so wrong, right? It's like
Like, that's a great point, but you're wrong.
Yeah, but it's not valid. Yeah. You say it convincingly, you didn't make it any truer, unfortunately.
Yeah, very true.
Getting back to the ETFs for Bitcoin. One of my, I don't want to say concerns, but one of my thoughts is that when we reach the peak of this bull run, it might set the stage for an even bigger crash in 2026 than we're used to, right? Because if we reach the peak, let's say Bitcoin, for sake of argument's sake, it gets to $170,000, a coin for Bitcoin. You think that these ETFs aren't going to start selling off and taking their profits?
Yeah, they may. It's possible.
They're not just
I don't
going to
know.
hold it.
I think it depends on how you're. Yeah, probably not. I mean, they may not. They may try and trade it, and they may try and all do it at the same time, right? And the other thing you got to think too is, in terms of like high frequency trading, and algorithms and bots and things like that. Like in the stock market, the flash crash, right? Flash crashes. That's almost becoming like a regular thing. And what it is it's high frequency trading bots all trading at the same time, all sell, all buy, whatnot, right? So I think, what you're saying is, since Wall Street is now going to be in Bitcoin, could you have like flash crashes of Bitcoin and huge drops? Maybe. Yeah, maybe the roller coaster is going to get even more intense, coming up. That could be.
And I think that that's a stronger possibility, simply because it's things like that the bulk of the crypto community is not talking about, not anticipating, or doesn't even foresee coming. That's usually, everyone's saying, the old saying, right? Everyone's saying, well, it's the volatility is going to die down because institutional money's here and it's not going to drop as violently anymore. Well, that's the catalyst you need right there to understand that it actually might drop more than we're used to, right? When everyone thinks it's going one way, right?
Yeah. I've found that in crypto, whenever the group thinks one thing is going to happen, the opposite happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man. So there's actually, before I move on to that, let's get into a couple of questions real quick that I'll throw to you, because I don't want them to pile up too much. Can you see the chat where you are on your side?
No.
Okay. So Beebs says, I know this is purely speculation, but what is your realistic guesstimate on JASMY's price by the end of the year? That's so tough without a catalyst, isn't it? It's hard.
Yeah. It's a moving target. Previously, when I looked at last time, right? One of these times when I looked into it, and I was comparing it to Cardano. I predicted about 25 cents total was what I thought it would do at that time. Now that was months and months and months ago, right? Another thing that I've said is that the higher that the market maker can get JASMY, the better before the big run, right? Mm-hmm. So if it can actually start running at some point and then build upon that with like the real entire market going off, then who knows? Maybe it goes even higher. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing, right?
But I think we need to. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that that's the thing, is that there's things like we don't know how many coins are getting locked up. We don't know how many people are going to utilize the PDL right off the bat in the first 8-9 months. These are big factors in terms of where the it's going to go.
Yeah. You know, I think that I don't know if I can answer that in terms of like, hey, what's your number? I don't know if I really have a number on that. I think it's more so like I would view it like this, like our long-term trends changing, right? Like are we suddenly picking up in holders like it's ramping up, right? Okay, maybe it starts going, you know. In terms of the chart, I mean, it's been, if you look at the JASMY chart and you zoom it out, you know, it's kind of straight down. It's kind of floating around the bottom. Now, where it is right now, I actually really like it, right? Because it's kind of like at the bottom, and what goes down must go up, right? But I think certain trends kind of need to be reversed or changed to the positive. Like we need to see some consistently positive trends, and then from there, then it could really start running, right? You know, for Catalyst, yeah, there's not really any more exchange listings. I mean, yeah, there's some promotions that Hara's doing. Like I just saw that one the other day, that Guardia wallet, whatever that is. That's basically just, you know, a private company's wallet, and now JASMY's on there. So it's kind of like the equivalent of an exchange listing, right? Is that going to be the catalyst that sets it off? No, I don't think so. I think there's some really big things that if they can start knocking these things out, then maybe it does start to reverse those trends and take off. But they've got to do these things. I mean, this, you know, it's one of my gripes against them at the moment. Is it's like, all right, show me the money. Like, let's start delivering. Like, you know, there's 4 or 5 things here that let's start taking them out. I mean, come on. At some point, we gotta deliver. You know, where's my roadmap? I want my roadmap. Where's the super wallet? I want the super wallet. Where's the chain? Okay, I want the chain. And you know, it's like I understand it's got to be done right. I get that, but these are really big items. That those are the catalysts, right? Those items. That's what's really going to kind of take it, you know, where it hasn't been before, right? You know, I have this line that I use around the house that people don't suddenly become who they've never been, right? So for JASMY to start off, then it needs to do things that it's never done, right? And these are some of those things. And you know, I even think there's like some low-hanging fruit, as I would term it, of things that they could do right now that they're not doing. Like, you know, how bullish would it be if Sato or Ando came out and did a little like 30-second video to everybody around the world saying, hey, appreciate you guys being a JASMY holder. Here's what we got coming up for you this year. We look forward to it being a great year. That's all you'd have to say, and this thing would explode. But they don't do that.
Yeah.
Right? There's little things like that. You know, they get knocked for the blockchain stats too, and they don't post any of that stuff. So anyway, sorry.
I think another factor in that too is like I was talking to someone last night about it. They were saying this team doesn't do marketing, and again, we've touched on that so many times. It's like right now they don't, but I mean, if McDonald's didn't have their Big Mac out to the public, if they were just still formulating this Big Mac, would they be running commercials and pumping money into marketing for a product they can't sell? You know what I mean? Like, so on one hand, I think that we probably will see marketing start to ramp up towards retail investors for sure once their product is established, working, and out to market. But I think that there's more to it than that some people aren't taking into account. And that's that a lot of the bigger marketing that they're going to be doing is really still going to be behind the scenes when their product is out. We're not going to be privy to information about, you know, the institutions and the the medical field appointments that they're going to have, the governments, all of this stuff. That's where the real marketing and the real value is really going to come from JASMY PDL, right? Not from us retail usage. We're the little part of the pie here, right?
Yeah, that's true.
If you want to hire a valuation, average valuation per PDL, you're going to have that big money utilizing the PDL, right?
Yeah, I think the line they're walking is they've got to marry the two, right? So on one hand, you've got the idea, okay, and its application, whatever that looks like. And on the other hand, you've got the coin. And you really got to marry those two so that they're in sync together, so that if the idea is going up, the coin's going up with it. You know what I mean? And that's probably a bit of their challenge, I think, to date, was really getting those two together. Now, I would say that they're very purposeful, and when they tell you they're going to do 50 weeks IR, well, then Hara's posting pretty regularly the 50 weeks IR. He did that, right? And then they said, we're doing 50 more weeks IR. Okay, great. Well, that's done now, and Hara's not saying anything. I mean, it's pretty quiet. I mean, you're lucky if he posts something once or twice a week at the moment. So they have to purposefully. It's maybe this is like a bit of a cultural difference. Like here in the U.S., I view it more like, hey, we could be talking about this thing all the time. And I think over there, they're a lot more methodical in the sense that it's like, yeah, they want it all done. They want it a certain way. And then they'll start talking about it on the IR front. But they're going to tell everybody first, hey, we're going to do 50 more weeks of IR. And then they'll start talking about it versus like Soda over at a Star. He's talking every single day. And a Star is going straight up. Why? Because of TVL, right? TVL and a Star.
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree. And I am going to segue into something with Hara shortly. So, so Luke says, man, I'm late again. What did I miss? Did JASMY hit $1 yet? Yes, Luke. JASMY hit $1 about a half hour ago. We all sold and took our profits. We're rich now. Sorry, bro. You got to be here on time.
Snooze, you lose.
Yeah, we pumped it. We pumped that price, brother. What else do we got? Simon, hey guys. Great show. Thanks for all the info you both share. Blair wants to know, is it a good time to get into alts?
Into alts in general?
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why I would say that is there's many alts that are still down 80%, 90% from their previous all-time highs. What goes down must go up, right? Now, granted, that applies to real things and not like Ben token.
Yeah. Pick things with utility.
Yeah. Now, yeah, you never know. I mean, if Ben token cranks out a ecosystem and PDLs, then maybe that's the way to go. But till then, probably not.
Robert says there's a history of coins that spike, fall 99%, and then eventually hit new all-time highs. Yeah, there is. Yep. It's all context, right? Like it's what is it they say? What's that show Reacher where he says details matter? I love that. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. What else do we got? ADA spiked, fell 99%, then hit new all-time highs. I think you touched on that earlier, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Haas says, hey guys. What else we got? Robert says JASMY needs to stop promotions and release products. I don't even think they're running promotions, to be honest.
Well, sort of. the blockchain PC that's out there, the secure PC, the program. I mean that's out there. I mean, could they release more? I think they're always looking at new use cases, but it's I don't know. It's got to pan out. You know, the problem sometimes with things like this is that your market may change in the time that it takes you to get your ducks in a row and put out what you intended to put out, right? Like you always got to be able to kind of pivot, as well as I think you need to be able to see the future a little bit also, you know?
Well, I think that another big problem in that is that on one end, I have to say that like they've told us when the product is coming. They've given us a time frame when it's coming in terms of the PDL and the JASMY chain and stuff, right? And a lot of the argument that I've seen on the other side is just people that are like, okay, like let's release this already. Okay, well, I mean, but that's an argument for after the time elapses, right? Like 2 months before they say they're going to launch it, don't be online getting upset that they haven't launched it because they're not supposed to be launched yet. You know, a real lack of patience, I suppose.
Yeah.
But Robert says the chain and the super wallet are key. Absolutely. That is the linchpin for this whole thing kicking off.
I agree.
Sun is Hot says, where is the secure PC? I think it's only available in South Asia right now, right?
As far as I know, yes. So it started as the partnership with Transcosmos. So it's there. And I know Lil Bidman's posted a couple of times like where the program was. And at first it was only Japanese. And now I think there's an English one, as I recall. And then the blockchain PC came out with the Avita partnership. So again, it's all Asia. Every bit of it is Asia. There's not really anything like here in the US that you could buy or use. There's nothing like that.
Yeah. Well, I heard, I think it was about a year ago, that they were actually, weren't they in talks? Didn't they actually come over to the United States? They were in talks about getting the ability to sell the Aveda laptops out here in the West.
I don't know if it was specifically the Aveda laptop, but I do know they had looked into I think somewhere around Silicon Valley, San Francisco. There's a guy out there, Era, that he was looking into some options for them. And supposedly, I think there was a trip that a couple of them took out here. And I don't know if it ever really panned out. I know it happened, but there wasn't really much from it. There's nothing to really hold on to there. I think it was kind of like a scouting mission, and that's about it.
Robert says, secure PCs being used, however, it doesn't necessarily require coin lockup. Yeah, and there's a lot of things that's something that I was going to get into. So I'm going to save that one because there's something I wanted to talk to you about in terms of JASMY and how it's parallel with Ripple, in my view, when you step back. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I just want to burn through some of these questions. We're almost done. Sun is Hot. How is secure PC being used? It's not even out. Yeah, it is out. Sun is Hot. It's out. It's just not out here. I don't think you can even order it online out here. Can you? You have it shipped? I don't know if you can do that.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Robert says the new blockchain, according to Hara, is supposed to give actual utility to the JASMY coin and increase value. Let's see. Yeah, that's where we talked about, Robert. The you'll actually have to lock up coins to actually be able to use the PDL, right?
Yep, absolutely. That's the someone said that's the linchpin, right? So that's what brings the whole thing alive. Yeah. It's really waiting on that.
Sun is Hot says, what are your thoughts on the XRP healthcare?
On the what?
XRP healthcare. I guess they've gotten into healthcare. I'd have to do more personally. I'd have to do more research into it.
Yeah, I'm.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the questions for now. We'll let some more build up. But what I was segueing into there was when I step back and I look at JASMY as a company, and then I look at a company like Ripple, for example, right? I see two companies. I see them kind of similar in the aspect of these are two companies that while they have crypto projects, they're doing so much as global, like as companies that are trying to be global super companies, in my opinion. But but not everything that they're doing is going to impact the coin itself, like the crypto aspect of what they're doing. Like a lot of the stuff that XRP, Ripple's doing, it's not necessarily going to impact the price of XRP, right?
Right.
Like for example, there was Ripple just bought crypto. What did they say? They announced they acquired an enterprise grade regulated platform for digital assets called Standard Custody and Trust Company. That's not going to affect the price of XRP necessarily, right? And I see JASMY the same way, where these companies are bigger than just, I guess what I'm alluding to, these two companies are bigger than just the crypto projects that they're involved in, right?
Yeah.
And
I would agree with that.
That's big to me, right?
Yeah. A similar one to think about like that would be BNB. So Binance, I don't know if they're still this way now that CZ's gone, but Binance owns a lot of things, right? They own CoinMarketCap. They own Trust Wallet. They own, I think, Swipe. There's a whole bunch of them. The Binance just straight up bought them, right?
Yeah.
Now, is that built into the price of BNB? I don't know. Probably not. And there's been a lot of, kind of rumorish posts that BNB was sort of being artificially floated by Binance and their market maker, keeping it above 200, right? There was quite a few posts that came out about that at one point in time. So my point is that they acquire other companies. Is that part of their price? I don't know. That's hard to say. I think that's kind of relative, but I don't know if you could prove it one way or the other.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, do you participate in airdrops at all?
No, absolutely not.
Me neither. I get asked about it all the time. There's too many scams.
Yeah, so a few years ago, airdrops had the potential to be real, right? And I remember Uniswap in particular did an airdrop, and people who had Uniswap actually got more Uniswap, and it went up significantly in value, right? And it was kind of like a huge deal. Like, wow, if you were holding Uniswap, you got this, and that's awesome, right? What it looks like it's real, okay, would be like the equivalent of like talking about JASMY, for example. So if the super wallet is out and you have your coins in the super wallet, there's TVL, they're locked, right? And you now have your utility coins on the JASMY chain. And Hara sends out to everybody who's got locked coins, hey, guess what? We did an airdrop. I sent you 1,000 JASMY. Then that would be real. Okay. Now, the problem with the airdrop is it's one of those things that sounds too good to be true, right? It's like, oh, you mean I don't do, hardly anything. Sorry there. I don't do anything. And they just drop free money in my lap, right? And it's like, wrong. That's not how it works. Like, you got to be giving them something also, right? So going back to that concept of TVL, if you're actually locking those coins, and they decide that, you know, in a lot of projects, they'll have in their tokenomics promotions, right? And how much money are we allocating for promotions? Even JASMY did that drone air show at one point where they did the JASMY logo in the sky with all the different lighted up drones, right? Something like that, you could allocate that towards an airdrop, and you could say, hey, right now we got 6,000 people that are locked into the super wallet, and we're going to send them all 100 JASMY for, you know, thanks for participating or thanks for your support, right? That's a real airdrop.
Yeah.
In the time since, though, since that Uniswap one, 99% of these are scammers out to rip you off. And if you click the link and you connect your wallet, you're toast, right? They're going to take everything you've got. And especially, you know, depending on the platform, like Twitter, there's a ton of scammers on there, and Twitter doesn't police any of them. Telegram, there's a ton of scammers on there, and they don't police any of them. And, you know, it's a very, very slippery slope, the whole airdrop idea.
Yeah. And the other side of it is like another negative to it. Like for me, I got the airdrops for a few of the XRP airdrops over the last couple of years, like Sologenic and Corium and Flare. But just simply because I held XRP, I didn't have to do anything, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I get asked sometimes about Sologenic. I think Sologenic is an okay project. I think it'll do well. However, the company has jaded me towards them, and I won't buy any of it. And I still hold what they gave me, but over a lot of these airdrops, they overpromise and underdeliver, and that turns people away from your company, your project as well. Because when they first announced the airdrop, you know, they said, okay, so this is what we're going to give you. And I think they said they were giving like 3-to-1 for Sologenic, right? For every one XRP you held. So I'm sitting there doing the math. I'm like, okay, that's a juicy little airdrop, right? And then by the time they did it, it was like 0.25 to 1 or something like that by the time they did it. And a lot of people were upset. And I was reading, you know, some of the argument was, well, what are you complaining about free money for? And for me, it wasn't about how much money they gave me. It was about when you said you were going to do an airdrop, I started researching your company. I started to consider investing into your coins, right? And the very first thing you did in terms of engagement with me was underdeliver, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a good start.
No. And it's a little bit of a bait and switch, right? Because if you're holding XRP and they say, hey, we're doing an airdrop, what are you expecting? XRP, right? But then they give you something else and you're like, that's not what I wanted. You know, like if JASMY was doing an airdrop and gave you some SHIB, you'd be like, what the hell? Like, why are you sending me SHIB? I want more JASMY. That's what you told me.
So yeah, let me convert this SHIB over to JASMY real quick.
Yeah, so really, I think what you're hitting on is they never communicated clearly what their expectations were to set them with the community and then let it rip, right? So then in the meantime, they look bad because they gave you something else that you never wanted anyways. You know, I've got a funny joke about this. You know, if you ever leave like a concert or like let's say a football game or whatever it is, right? Some kind of entertainment venue. And there's somebody out there with flyers and they're giving everybody flyers, right? And you're looking at them, you're like, oh God, you're like, I don't want a flyer, you know, and they give you the flyer and you go, you know, you take the flyer because you're trying to be nice. And one of my buddies refers to that as they're saying, here, you throw this away. So you take the thing from them and just throw it away, right? And in a way, that's kind of like what you're describing in this airdrop. They're going, here, you throw this away. And you're like, thanks for these coins that I didn't want. All right, I guess I'll unload them. Goodbye. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell me about this. Apparently there's an AMA on the 27th.
Yeah. So that's coming up around the corner.
Or sorry, 17th. My bad, 17th.
Yes. So, community member Dip Metaverse a good friend of mine, he took it upon himself last year to pay JASMY a visit, right? He flew all the way out there. He met with Hara multiple times, even went to dinner with him on one of them, shared a cab ride, yada, yada. And so they've kind of become friends, right? After he's been out there. And so he was talking to him at one point, and he still had, a bunch of different questions. He is very, very technical in terms of the questions he asks. They're very specific. They're usually about very specific partnerships, very detailed questions. Really kind of, when you were talking earlier about when somebody doesn't research a project and then they ask questions. Well, he's the opposite. He does research it, and then he asks very detailed questions. So my understanding is the AMA will be a list of those specifically from him. And then there could also be some ambassador-related questions. Me personally, I'm not going to be there for that one. I had Telegram a while ago, and I don't know, it left my phone somehow. I don't think I deleted it. I don't know what happened to it, but it disappeared. I tried to get it back, and I was like, it gives me a little bit of the Willies Telegram, because I feel like it kind of like the airdrop scam. At the time, I was in I think I was in like a group chat for like Pokedex or one of these coins, and they started doing all that kind of airdrop stuff, and I didn't know what the heck was going on. I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm out of Telegram. So for whatever reason, JASMY today really wants to push Telegram, and maybe it's because of the Telegram's influence in Asia. That could be. I don't really know. But it will be on Telegram. I will not be there. But I have asked that they post a recap of that on the other platforms. So, Twitter, Medium, wherever. Post a recap and everybody can see it, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to have to talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Take notes, brother. Take notes.
Yeah, I know, right? Try to decipher what was said, right?
Yeah. Oh man, because as soon as it's over, I know I'll start getting DMs. So when are you doing a breakdown of the AMA?
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be interesting. I'll probably tune in for that's going to be in Japanese.
No.
Oh no, okay. So it'll be harder for people even still, because Hara still struggles with English a little bit, right? So
yeah, and I think I saw it posted where the comparison between like English and Japanese, it's like if you took a sentence and completely reversed it, but I think it was like either the first word or the last word stays the same. I mean, it looks really, really difficult. So for him, coming from one and going to the other has to be very challenging. Now, granted, at the same time, I kind of feel like that's no excuse, because I mean, you got a $250 million market cap. Like, get somebody else if you need to. But I think maybe where you have a bit of an issue is it can get very technical, right? And you kind of need somebody who understands the technical part, but also can translate clearly, right?
Well, I agree with what you're saying about like it's an excuse to a degree, because you're trying to be a global company. You got to speak English, right? It's just kind of comes with the territory, man.
You do.
A lot of countries.
Yeah, and I think about this sometimes. Right. And if you just want to focus on Japan, then that's fine. Just focus on Japan and do everything in Japanese. But you're telling me you want to be global. So if you want to be global, then you need to act global, right?
Yeah, you can't have a translator following you around forever, right?
No.
So yeah, I'll listen in on that and see. I'll probably take some notes. Yeah, so we talked about the ETFs. Apparently, what do you think about this blockchain association? Did you hear about that? Writing a letter today to apparently to Congress about Elizabeth Warren's digital asset legislation bill she's trying to push through?
I have not heard of that. However, I have heard of Elizabeth Warren and all of her bad ideas for blockchain.
Well,
she's got lots of bad ideas when it comes to blockchain.
yeah. Well, apparently today there was a letter sent by 80 individuals. Most of them have been involved with the U.S. military or government, and they've all signed their names to the Blockchain Association letter opposing Senator Warren's Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act. So she's facing some real. For someone who said she's making an anti-crypto army, she just got a letter slapped in her face by 80 people.
Yeah. And, you know, you don't, she's like the salmon that's going against, I guess, no, salmon do go against the stream. Sorry, bad example. She's like she's like the one person that's like deviating from like, you know, the whole group is going in one direction, right? Like, you know, I mean, obviously you're in Canada, right? But here in the US, capitalism is what this country is built on. You know, money talks, okay? The last bet I would ever make is a bet against Wall Street, okay? I would never do that. And that's kind of what she's doing publicly in a way now, especially now that Wall Street is in the Bitcoin ETF, is she's saying, hey, I'm taking an opposite view. And I'm sure there's probably a ton of Democrats that are going like, oh, really? Like, did you really have to do that? You know, it's like,
Year.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all kind of like posturing, right? She postures one way, an opposing group postures. But at the end of the day, money talks, and there's a lot of money in crypto. And the long-term trend is crypto getting bigger and bigger. So I don't know if her, you know, plugging the bubble gum in the dam is going to hold this thing back, right? And I don't think she would get any support in a wider audience for that. You know, maybe she'll get a few people that don't understand it at all. But as time goes on, I think more and more people will understand the cryptocurrency and the markets and blockchain, right?
Well, I mean, just look at the Bitcoin ETFs. You have the the Ethereum ETFs that I think May 23rd is the deadline for them to make a decision on that. So you would think that Elizabeth Warren would be able to maybe read the room, you know, like the Bitcoin ETF is like the most successful ETF in history, apparently, not in terms of numbers. It's like the only one to reach $1 billion in inside of like a month or something like that. And there's like 3 that are over $1 billion.
Yeah. You know, the other funny thing is that she names the bill after this term of money laundering, right?
Yeah.
And I've said this for a long time that if you were going to launder money with crypto, that's like one of the dumbest things you could do, because you have a public ledger that displays every trade. So somebody like the FBI's, you know, intelligence team, whatever, that digs into that, I mean, they really can't trace it. Now, where it becomes harder to trace is when you have like the nation states, like a North Korea, hacking like a Axie exchange, Axie crypto, right? They hack that. They send it to Tornado Cash. And the way you look at it is it's one getaway vehicle driving into a warehouse and like 30 driving out, right? Okay, maybe there could be some money laundering there. But again, we can still track them as long as those 30 then don't drive back into the warehouse and 30 more drive out, right? And if you're going to track it and you really do track it to North Korea, well, now what?
Yeah.
You know, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're spending all this time and resources following that. So if you're following a person, you know, like on Twitter, what's his name? Zach XBT, right? I mean, he tracks all that stuff. He posts it publicly. Hey, look at all this shady stuff. And you can see when people try and hack. But again, I always go back to the beginning that that's like the dumbest thing you can do is money launder in crypto. I think really what she's really getting at is that they don't want a monetary system outside of the US dollar that they cannot control. And that's what Bitcoin is. And what that creates is somebody like Russia, let's say, that has been like blackballed in the entire world because of their terrible decisions and what they've done in Ukraine, right? So Russia, you know, the rupee is like, you know, it's like tickets that you get at the local arcade. You spit out the tickets, and after you've got, you know, like 20 million of them, you can buy like a teddy bear, right? Like that's like what the rupee is right now. So somebody like Russia, it'd be a no-brainer for them to buy Bitcoin, right? As long as they have an off-ramp somewhere that they can hold that value and they can off-ramp into whatever currency they want. So I feel like what she's saying is it's this, but it's really that. Like it's not a money laundering thing. And if you really cared about money laundering, well, just look at the traditional banking system in the US that is infested with money laundering, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a heck of a lot more money laundering in traditional banks than what you're going to find in Bitcoin or crypto. But they like to make this example out of it like it's this boogeyman because it's a currency that technically they can't control unless they get on board with it. And so far, the U.S. government doesn't know where they stand, you know?
Well, I think that a big factor, and one of the comments here touched on it that I was gonna mention from KK. He says, "No, actually, politicians don't want to be tracked. That's why they know crypto will show their bribes." And then he follows it by saying, "Plus, spending bills could be tracked to the penny, and they don't want that." And I agree. That is a big factor. I think that you get these politicians like Pelosi, right, and Warren, who have like what, a $200,000 annual salary and somehow are worth $57 million. Yeah, I wonder what their motivation is for not wanting trackable money, right? Or money that only they can track, nobody else, right?
Yeah. So I can't see how many people are in this right now in the chat, but for anybody who wants to know, there's a account on Twitter. It's the Nancy Pelosi stock trader account, and it tracks all of her stock trades. And she's like the most profitable stock trader in like the history of the country. And it's like, clearly there's some things happening here that are not on the up and up, you know, but good luck holding her accountable at this point, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's just it, right? And yeah, they don't want the money. Also, you have to think about money that funds their election campaigns, right? Like we see that as a very, very big talking point during elections is, you know, well, this person, you know, well, Donald Trump gets his money from, you know, racists and, you know, and the KKK or something like that, right? And it's imagine if you could actually track the money that's going into all campaign donations. Well, that would be a nightmare for them, right? It would be a PR nightmare.
Yeah. That's why here in the US they stuff all the money in super PACs, and then it's like, well, that was the super PAC that did it. He did it. You know, like that's kind of the funny thing about Donald Trump is he's like a tornado of chaos, and it's swirling around and he's at the very center of it. And he always takes a defensive. He did it. They did it. That person did it. Wasn't me. And it's like you're like, okay, you know.
Yeah. Another thing, I was watching a movie the other day. It was a newer William Neeson. I think. And I can't remember the name of it, but he was basically, the premise of it was he was driving in this car with his kids, and there was a bomb in the car, and if he tried to get out, the bomber was going to set it off or whatever, right? And the end goal here was to get him to release a few $1 billion from an account because he was some finance firm. So and then send it to this bad guy, so to speak, right? So I'm watching this movie, and then at the end of it, the guy's like, wire the money to this account. And William Neeson's like, wow, as soon as the money lands in your account, it's going to be frozen, right? It'll be seized. And the guy, and this shows the lack of understanding in crypto, right? The guy's response was, no, it's a crypto account, 100% untraceable. I was like, what?
Yeah. That's your record skip moment. Yeah. What? Like that doesn't quite add up.
Oh man, it shows a lack of understanding though, right? It's hilarious. I don't know. What do we got here? We got Charles Gasparino said that so apparently the inflation numbers were not good today in the States. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I heard they were coming out. I know they were shooting for under 3%, but I didn't see the number yet. Does he have the number?
Apparently it was a hair over 3%. I don't have the exact number, but it was just over. That's why some of the market's a little bit red.
Okay, I can see that.
So he says, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I probably wouldn't read too far into it. I know the Fed's target was 2%. So that's where they want it to trend to. So if it's slightly higher, I think I heard this morning that it's due to things like if you go out to eat, a restaurant's more expensive. Well, that's because the wages went up. Like there's certain things that you just can't really lower the way they want to. So it could just be a bump in the road anyway. But sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask you, like, basically with Yellen and with Biden pressuring Powell to start cutting rates, and with inflation coming back a hair higher than anticipated. I mean, obviously, you can forget about a rate cut for March now, but like, how much longer can Powell kind of hold back the pressure from the Democrats in an election year? Because you have to have a good economy, or you have to at least give the illusion of a good economy in an election year.
Yeah.
If you have any chance of winning, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say the smart money's probably on sometime in the second quarter, like April, May, June. I would expect them to lower rates at that point. I don't think they're going to do it yet because I think maybe they're a little gun shy, and they, if the number's slightly just barely higher than where they were trending, they probably don't like that, so they'll hold off. I agree with you. I don't think it'll happen in March, but I would expect to see it happen probably leading into the summertime. I mean, that's when everybody's feeling good, anyways. I could see that coming about.
Well, you see the picture that's being painted here, right? I mean, in my opinion, anyway, you have Biden and Yellen painting Powell as the big monster in the room here. That we're fighting Powell on your behalf, right?
Yeah.
He's the bad guy here, not us.
Yeah. A good politician deflects all blame and takes credit for all good things, right?
Oh man. Oh, we got a couple more comments here. Jason says, so would 25 cents for JASMY be realistic prediction for the bull run? Approximately first and second quarter of 2025, even 10 cents in my view would be incredible. I'm just a realist. I think 10 cents is easy. Like, well, it's easy, but 10 cents is easy compared to people saying $3 before the end of the year, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, things can only run so far, right? But we got to get in the pennies first. We got to get out of this sub penny area. We got to get in solid pennies and then start running from there. Right. So it's doable. I mean, hey, this is crypto. Anything could happen. Who knows? Something crazy out of nowhere and bam, blast off. Right.
Well, you could say that. I mean, when we do get back over a penny, 2 pennies, 3 pennies, right? You will start to see a chain reaction of FOMO, right?
Yeah, I think so. Again, you just got to marry this, right? It's the JASMY idea, it's the PDL, it's the patents, it's Sony, and marry that up with the coin in a way that the coin actually responds, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're there at the moment, but that's the goal, is really kind of putting these two together. And when it happens, I mean, it could very well run in a way that it's never done before.
Yeah. So tell me something. As a hockey guy, I'm a hockey guy. I'm not really a football guy. Okay. What the hell is going on with this Taylor Swift thing and the Super Bowl? What? Are you a football guy? I don't know, because I hear Taylor Swift. It's like Taylor Swift being at the Super Bowl mattered more than the actual Super Bowl.
Yeah. My take is this. I kind of view Travis Kelce. He's kind of like that creepy older guy neighbor who's like dating your daughter, right? It's like you see it and you're like, that guy? She supposedly lives a very sheltered life, even though she's this mega worldwide star, right? Like she flies everywhere with her parents, and she lives in this little sheltered bubble where basically, when you get to that level, everybody around you is kind of hooked onto you, right? They're following you because she's the thing that's taking them all to the stratosphere. And I don't get the impression that she makes very good decisions. So I my own personal view to kind of psychoanalyze this is, I think somebody bet him like, you can't pull that off, and he was like, oh, I bet I could, and they're like, no way, and he was like, oh, I bet you I can, and they're like, all right, you're on. And here he is later, like he actually did it, right? Like it happened. And there's couples, I talked to my wife about this, sometimes you see a couple and you go, I get it, right? I get it why those two hooked up. They're a good yin yang, they fit, right? And I look at those two and I go, like I think they're doing it now for the attention, but I think that's only going to last so long. And I think it's at some point he's going to be like he's going to be honest, and he's going to be that guy who was, I don't know if you saw, who was shouting at the coach during the Super Bowl. I mean, he nearly ran over his like 70-year-old coach. He's screaming in his face, and you don't think he's going to do that to her at some point? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Good call.
Yeah, I mean, the over-under on that relationship, I'm surprised it's lasted as long as it has. And I'm one of the people, I think that she's going to have like a double album worth of material when it all goes south. From dating
He's like a method actor.
Yeah. Because it's coming for sure. And I mean, just seeing the two of them together, she's got this kind of like, like she can't believe it's happening to me. Okay. And he's just kind of like the fox is like riding off in his Corvette, with the hen house hen, down the street. And I imagine her parents too are like, oh my God, how do we break them up?
No kidding.
Anyhow.
I want to meet their writer after this. United Art Forms says, I want to meet their writer of this season's NFL script.
You know who the writer is? The writer is Legalized Gambling. That's the writer of this year's NFL script.
Sponsored by Las Vegas Casinos.
Yeah, you know, earlier in the year, I think I would venture to say that this year's officiating was some of the worst NFL officiating I've seen, and I've been watching the NFL since I was probably like 5-6 years old, right? And this year was so bad, just across the board, just missed holding call, you know, blown pass interference, like the obvious stuff, like the refs looking right at them, they call nothing, you know, like there's a lot of that. And, you know, I've been talking with some of my other buddies about this, that now the gambling is legal, right? Let's say that I don't know how many referees there are in the NFL, but let's say hypothetically there's like 200 of them. Okay. What if 3 of them were bought just to influence a little bit here or there?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nearly impossible to track them. And in those a slight little call here, a slight little call there, that changes a lot with those gambling odds, right? And I mean, the Super Bowl was in Las Vegas. You know, it's kind of like where there's smoke, there's fire, and I don't believe in coincidence. So,
well, are you much of a hockey guy?
I was a Lightning fan for quite a while, and believe it or not, this last run that they had where they won a couple cups, I kind of stopped watching just before that. I watched the 4, 5, 6, 7 years in a row. I had season tickets for a while. And I don't know. I just kind of fell out of it. And, you know, maybe part of it in that respect is that NBC Sports used to always have hockey, right? And I really liked all the guys that they had common. I just love, I love playoff hockey and I love amateur hockey, like both of those, right? And somehow now that it's moved to ESPN, it's lost its, like, I don't know. There was something magical there that they had, I think, with NBC Sports that ESPN can't replicate. And I don't know, it's lost me a little bit on the national stage, but I still like the lower ranks kind of amateur hockey. Like we have a hockey team here that who they feed into. They used to feed into, I think, the Jets. Anyway, we got a team here that I love going there and seeing them like just brawl out, fight, you know, and it's like sloppy goals and all that stuff. Love it.
Well, we had something similar happen here in Canada. We have a broadcast called Hockey Night in Canada, and we used to. I mean, just my whole life I've watched it. Right? It was on local TV, mostly CBC, Canadian Broadcasting, and it had the same thing you were saying, that magic, you know, something about it, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, there was something about when we were growing up watching hockey with bunny ears on the TV and you know, tinfoil on the bunny ears, watching the static hockey games, as opposed to today watching it in high definition, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of lost something. You know, Rogers stepped in and bought the rights, Sportsnet, and now they have the rights to all the broadcasting, and just it's not the same at all, right? And I don't know how much you guys have in terms of blackouts and stuff like that, regional restrictions. Do you guys have a lot of that?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. Like where we're at, Fox Sports bought out. I think Fox Sports has a lot of it. It's between Fox Sports and ESPN, but to get Fox Sports, you have to have, you know, like a YouTube TV or something like that. So it's kind of its scope is maybe a little more limited than it was before, you know?
Well, what I don't understand is how, so I live in Winnipeg. I'm from Toronto originally, right?
Oh, a Maple Leaf guy, huh?
Yeah. So what I don't understand, how living in Winnipeg can I not watch a Leafs game that's being broadcast, say, in Montreal or Ottawa? It's blacked out here in Winnipeg. I can't watch it. But the same night, at the same time, I can watch a New York Rangers game against the Los Angeles Kings. What the hell kind of sense does that make in terms of regional restrictions, right?
Yeah, that's weird. I've never been a fan of blackouts whatsoever, and the NFL used to black out a lot of stuff too. If like a team didn't sell enough tickets, they'd black out the game to the local home crowd, and it's like, how are you supposed to build a fan base if you're blacking out the local home crowd?
Oh man. So another question I had I wanted to ask you, when do you plan on getting out of the market, and what's your type of exit strategy? Are you just DCAing out the same way you DCA in, or are you just aping out? Like, where's your target in terms of a time frame?
Well,
this year, first quarter next year?
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of depends. I think the most formula way to do it, let's say, is if you were looking at the moving averages, right? And if the moving averages flip bear, then if they start to look like they're going to flip bear, you could sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if they start, you'll know it because they start closing in together, right? They get real tight and then they flip bearish and then it, drops off a cliff. So really you're kind of looking for something like that in terms of a market indicator, those EMAs. Now the EMAs can be a little bit lagging. And likewise, I like to say, DCA when the EMAs are bearish, right? Now, Bitcoin, for example, hasn't been bearish in a while. Yeah. I DCA that one every day regardless, just because I believe in this whole ETF thing that's happening, right? So that's a little bit of a... but I think in terms of like, if you were going to sell your altcoins, you can sell pieces along the way. Really, you got to ask yourself, it's like, how long do you really want to be in this thing, right? I mean, if cycles are real, which it seems like they are, if cycles continue to be real, do you want to sit with all of your alts for another 4 years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a long time, right? I mean, this last couple of years has just been brutal in terms of the downward action and just the daily grind of it, right? So maybe you don't want to do that, but maybe with something like a Bitcoin, you do. Or let's say you're staking something, right? Like you're staking Ethereum, you're staking Polkadot, Cardano, whatever. If you're making good returns and the project isn't like inflating at like some crazy level, then why not leave it where it is, right? I mean, in the long run, there's nothing bad about making a steady return. Not every return is going to be like, 100x. It's like you read about that stuff on Twitter, but not every return's like that. And, typically, I mean, when you look at like a retirement account, if you're making like, let's say 8% a year, that's like a good year, like, man, we got 8% this year. Heck yeah. But you say that in the crypto world and they're like, that sucks, So, at the end of the day, don't marry your bags, put it that way. Don't marry your bags. But if you're just going to sell everything to convert it to like USD, for example, well, you'd be selling everything and putting it in a inflating currency, that's losing its buying power. And so, like Michael Saylor, I mean, I think this is a really good argument that he makes, about Bitcoin is moving to a Bitcoin standard versus a US dollar standard, right? If Bitcoin is going to hold its value and long-term keep going up, then like, why would Michael Saylor go, hey, we're at the top of the market, sell all the Bitcoin now? he probably wouldn't, right? Because there's also, the other thing too is there's also tax implications for any time you're selling and how long you've held it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always somebody taking a piece out of whatever gain you've made. So you got to make sure it's worth it if you're going for it,
That's an understatement. Speaking of tax, me personally, I'm looking into for the next cycle, so over the next few years, getting citizenship elsewhere outside of Canada, somewhere that's a little more tax friendly, right? Because here we pay about 25%. So we pay. What we do is we take we cut our profits in half, and then we're taxed 40% on 50%.
Okay.
Right. And so basically, so if I make $1 million, I got to just hand over $250,000, for, I don't remember the government chipping in on my investments here and like the risks I took.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't, but they're going to take some for themselves.
Yeah. So I'm looking into more friendly countries that I can move to. And to be perfectly honest with you, at the end of the day, I mean, our leaders here are a freaking joke. Like it's just as bad here as it is there right now. I don't know how much you guys hear about it, but essentially we live in a dictatorship in Canada right now. So I'm just not interested in being here anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. On that front, if you were going to go somewhere similar, I know I found through my channel that I seem to have a lot of viewers and similar interests with Canada, the UK, Australia, kind of some of the countries that you would sort of expect would be in there, right? You would probably have a similar way of life in some form or fashion. I do know that the tax implications. I mean, you do get something for all those taxes, right? Like things like a national health care. Here in the U.S., way back when that was a talking point when Obama was president, I always kind of thought that. So first of all, I believe in free markets. Let me just say that, right? But there's certain things like health insurance. I just kind of feel like I don't feel like you should be profiting from that, right? Like I feel like there's certain things that probably should be covered, and there's certain items that drive people into bankruptcy, and it's healthcare issues. Some of these people with their college loans are just crazy. Now, granted, they took them in the first place, right? It's their own fault, right? But at the same time, I mean, these college loans, they are somewhat predatory, and you're preying on somebody who doesn't know any better. And then over time, it keeps adding up, especially if you're not paying it, right? It keeps compounding, and it's a runaway freight train. So my point is that certain places you may pay a little more, but you get a little more, right? Now in the U.S., I do know one of my favorite bands of all time is Def Leppard. Okay, so Def Leppard came from the UK, and as far as I think, any of them still live in the UK. Like they have all left, every one of them. And I was reading a book by one of them, and he said that you kind of reach a point where you're faced with that decision, right? It's almost like you have to leave because you're going to pay so much in taxes that it just doesn't make sense to stay. And so a financial advisor or whoever's like, hey, you got to go somewhere a little more cost effective, right? And then they come to the US, right? And now, depending on like where you're at in the US differs. So if you're in, somewhere like California, you're going to be paying a lot more. If you're in New York, you're going to be paying a lot more. I'm in Florida. Some people go to Texas, right? There's certain states that don't have income tax, but there's always a bit of a trade-off also, right? Like, the running joke in Florida is like the Florida man, and you always hear about him. It's like, oh God, what did he do now? It's like Florida man. and it's the most ridiculous scenario you've heard in your life, and you're like, like there's stuff like that, and it's like you got to deal with that, but I get it. I get it that it's expensive, and the last thing you want to do when you do make a huge gain is give it all to somebody else who didn't do anything. Like I don't.
Sun is Hot says you can offset your losses against CGT, so just keep a record of your losses. Well, that's fine and all, Sun is Hot, but all we do is win. So, I mean,
no tax loss harvesting here. We only harvest wins.
But the taxes here are not the only issue. It's did you know that, like, I had a friend who recently went to Mexico over the holidays, right?
Okay.
And you actually can't watch most Canadian news broadcasting in Canada. You can't watch our own broadcasting in Canada. If you go to like our CBC Canadian Broadcasting, our national news networks and stuff like that, for the most part, like on Facebook, and try to watch the stories on there, it pops up and says you can't watch this in your like where you are. But she went to Mexico and she was able to watch all the Canadian. And the reason they do that is because our fearless leader doesn't want it to affect the voting process, right? He doesn't want people to see nationally what he's actually, all these blunders, right? So, like, tell me that's not dictatorship, right? You can't even watch your own news.
Yeah, he's got a lot of power, that's for sure.
Well, we got Squirt Reynolds says, I hate the fact that I need to pay the government when I'm the one risking my money. Yeah, we all hate that, brother. We all hate that. But I was thinking somewhere like New Zealand, or there's other countries that are making it more friendly, like Dubai, I know. What's the other one there? The tip of the tongue. They just made it. They've been buying up. They've been buying up Bitcoin and made it legal. El Salvador. Places like that, right? Definitely, and beautiful places too. Like Dubai looks beautiful.
It's expensive.
Yeah, expensive but beautiful. But I mean, if you make
it's warm, warm. They got that.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. Just thinking, like, moving elsewhere by 2030 anyway, getting out of here, because it doesn't seem like things are going to change. So what are you going to do, right? We're in a lose in Canada when it comes to our elections as well, where it's neither candidate is really better than the other. So I was talking to a friend about that the other day at work. He's very anti-Trump, and I was talking to him. He's like, "Oh, are you pro-Trump?" I said, "No, I'm not pro-Trump. I'm just also not pro-Biden. I think that it's a lose-lose situation, right?"
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's how a lot of us feel right now. It's like, couldn't we find anybody? I mean, the thing that I think about a lot, especially as you're getting older, right, is, I'm me personally, I'm 41, and I cannot 81 in running for the presidency. Like, that just sounds like pure insanity, right? And breaking it down even further, like Biden really likes Corvettes. Okay, like he really likes Corvettes, and if I'm comfortable, like if he was driving the car and he was like, "All right, Jesse, get in," hell no, I'm not getting in that car. You're out of your mind. No way would even with an autopilot, and he's behind the. No, I got it. No, that ain't happening. I am not getting in the car with you. If I don't trust him to drive me across the street to like the grocery store, then how do I like vote for him? And and likewise, the flip side, you've got Trump, and like I said, he's got a tornado of chaos swirling around him 24/7. uh Monster issues. He is, he's the only president in the US that has faced, what is it, like 200 felonies, or I don't even know, and you just go, God, like, can we please get someone else? And I think the part that kills me is, I think there's a lot of people that are centrist, right? And we want somebody who's like at least I do. I want somebody who's like pro business, is still, looking out for, the greater good, but obviously you can't help it, everybody. You can't make everybody happy. I get that. But I just feel like our leaders right now are way too old. That's the big problem. They're too old, right? Like even here in the US, our in Congress, Pelosi is like, 81. Mitch McConnell, he freezes up. He freezes up more than you and I freeze up talking on here. He just locks up, and he's up there for like 2.5 minutes, and they're looking around the room like, oh my God, is he gonna say something? And he still won't step down. It's like, this guy is not fit for anything, and I mean, I would be nervous about him going to the bathroom and locking the door. You'd be like checking on him, knocking on the door, like, hey, Mitch, you all right in there? If you don't hear anything, you'd be going in, right? And that's who we got. So
the scary thing is not necessarily that these people won't step down. It's that people keep voting for them.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, it's both.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. I kind of feel like there's maybe like a sweet spot of, let's say like 38 to 62. And that should be your window to be in office. And that's all you got, is that window. Make the most of it, whatever, and let's move on. And what we have currently is just bad.
The president only gets 2 terms, right?
Yeah.
It should be the same thing in Congress.
Yeah, coincidentally, it's not. Yeah. Same thing with the Supreme Court, right? Hey, they're in there for life. Great. Awesome.
Going back to the bull run here. My view of it is, I went back over the last 2 market cycles, and what I saw was that from the halving to the peak of the market, the peak of the bull run, was about 585 days, give or take a week, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm watching, because, like you said, the 4-year cycle is the 4-year cycle. I believe in the 4-year cycle. Even the drop in C19 only temporarily, swayed it, and then it still just went right back on the rails again, right?
Yeah.
Like a global shutdown, right? So I think that the 4-year cycle will continue, in my opinion. So in saying that, I think somewhere closer to between 400 and 450, about 450 and about 550 is where I'll be starting to kind of DCA my way back out of the market, so that when we get to around that 585,
yeah,
because I try to tell my followers that, listen, when the market goes down, it starts to go down fast.
Yeah, it's true. Yep.
Everyone's jumping ship, right? And it's in the last.
Yeah, and think about this too. Like, if everybody's selling in May, are you going to sell in May?
You can try.
You're probably going to miss it, right? So maybe you should have been selling in February, right?
Well, that's the thing. And in the last 4-year cycle, this is something, because you know as well as I do, every cycle you get more followers that are new to crypto, which is bullish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're all asking for exit strategies and stuff. And I try to tell them, like, listen, just take the last 4-year cycle as an example. I remember, and I'm sure you do too, when we were up around 65K for Bitcoin, 65K, everybody, including like BitBoy, Altcoin, all the big influencers were all saying the same thing. Super cycle, super cycle. You know, we're going. Bitcoin's going to $250,000. We're going to $500,000, and we're not going back down this time. This time's different. Cardano's going to $10. You know, and just all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Chainlink going to $500. Like, don't sell, don't sell. And there's one guy that I follow, that I listen to once in a while on YouTube. I just kind of watch his stuff. And Jake Gordon, I think his name is. And he talks about he fell for that in the last market cycle, and he had just like his HBAR holdings was like up to like $1 million almost, and everyone was telling him it's going higher, right? He didn't sell. He's still holding it because he didn't sell.
Yeah, 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 and all that time since is like pure torture, you know, the day in, day out, constant. Oh God, yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. And I'm trying to prepare people for that eventuality because it will happen again this market cycle, right?
Yeah.
When we get into probably Q1, Q2 of 2025, that's all you're going to see again is the major influencers online talking about super cycles and this time's different. Don't sell your bags, you know, and that's for me one of the biggest signals that you need to start selling your bags, right?
Yeah. Yeah, don't ever underestimate FOMO. FOMO is real, right? I mean, everybody, when they see it taken off, they're like, oh God, should I buy it? You know, and then you buy it, and then all of a sudden, guess what? There's going to be somebody holding the bag because all the smart money's selling it to you, right?
Yeah.
When it's strong.
Yeah, it's scary because like I try to tell people, I know that right now when things are kind of in an accumulation phase and they're kind of boring and sideways, you're like, oh, I'll know when to sell, no problem, right? I'm just going to do this alone and it's no issue. And it's like, no, you feel very differently when your entire echo chamber is telling you not to sell, and that it's, you know, the greed really starts to get to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the other thing is that just because it's behaved a certain way in the past is no guarantee that it behaves that way in the future, right? So you could have that random black swan event that derails everything out of nowhere that nobody saw coming. And you know that like that's part of the problem I think with this last cycle is there were so many black swan type issues that happened, you know, with COVID obviously being the biggest one, but all that really weighed on the cycle. And so it's you could argue it didn't perform maybe as well as it should have, right? And I think Plan B on Twitter, you know, he's got the stock to flow model,
Yeah.
and he took a lot of heat for Bitcoin not doing what he said it would do, right?
For the first time ever.
Yes, yes. Now, since that time, now that it seems like things are starting to recover, you can tell he's got a little pep in his step with, you know, his posts that he's putting out there. It's like, you know, yeah, and look at this and look at that, and it's stock to flow, you know, and it's still holding on, and you know, maybe we don't need to adjust it, and you know, he posts like the video of the polar bear on the beach ball, whatever. You can't hold it down forever, you know. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know, you know, the thing is, you know, some people, you get asked the question of like, it's basically someone's asking, how do I time the market, right? How do I time the market? And there's all kinds of different ways to try and time the market. And at some point, maybe you just take the gains that you got, right? And you make the most out of them, and then, you know, you move on from there.
Well, that's what I was alluding to when we were speaking last time about that Dogecoin millionaire documentary movie that I watched.
Yeah.
And he was saying, you know, when everyone was telling him to sell, he's saying, well, listen, I need 10 million or 15 million for my family and me to, you know, and to reach everything I need to do in life. And that's fine to have that goal. But for the love of God, man, sell everything at 3.8 million and then wait for the bottom of the next market cycle and then diversify your money. And I have no, if you can't turn 3.8, if you turned $180,000 into 3.8 in one market cycle, you should be able to turn 3.8 into 10 to 15 million in the following cycle, right?
Yeah, you should. But his problem is he's married to his bags, right?
Yeah.
So it's Doge or bust. And the reason that Doge caught fire was because Elon tweeted about it, right? They got listed on Robinhood. You know, you and I were joking about that's when you made it in cryptos, you get listed on Robinhood, right? So they have both of those things happen. That Elon just thinks it's funny, and then they had the Robinhood thing. And so, what would happen for Doge this time around, right? Hard to say. You know, it's hard to reinvent an old brand, right? You know, think of like a restaurant, like whatever your local restaurant chain that's been there forever, and it's how do you keep it fresh, right? How do you do that? And in a way, Dogecoin kind of has to do that. Like they need to somehow be fresh and somehow just catch fire a little bit and get a little lucky. And I mean, all those things are kind of true with that one last cycle.
Yeah. Well, I think that I'm not a Doge holder, but right now, but I do think for the Doge followers out there, I do think that Elon will eventually make some sort of utility integrating Doge into X at some point. If anything else, to give a middle finger to the SEC, and just because he thinks it's funny, right?
Yeah.
He thinks it's funny to make it have some sort of utility. I think that is an eventuality, and I do think that Doge likely can hit $1, like
Maybe.
people. But the problem is, like I was saying before, you can only in every 4-year cycle. This is what I think a lot of people miss, and it's because of greed. You can only squeeze so much out of a 4-year cycle, and you have to be able to take your money out and just be satisfied with that and hold it until we get back down to the bottom of the next market cycle, right? This is more of a rinse and repeat thing for me, as opposed to I got to get $15 million in the first shot, right?
Yeah. 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 I agree with that. I think that's true.
Yeah, it's just really patience. And one thing I've learned before I started running my channel, I learned that I used to think that this is easy, right? Like, how are people not? This is just common sense. You buy in at the bottom, you DCA the whole time, and then you sell near the top. You're never going to time the top, but you sell somewhat near the top when you've made a significant amount of profit, and then you wait for the market to bottom out and you do it again. Like for me, before I ran a channel, I thought that, like, how are people not getting this? And then I started running a channel. And you know exactly where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
The amount of people that are so emotional in this is staggering, right? You're
Yep.
just, what? Well, I want to buy this. Should I buy it? Well, it's pumped 56% in 24 hours. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I think sometimes people they want to bounce their idea off somebody else, but then they're going to do whatever they want to do anyways, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they'll ask, "Hey, what do you think?" And you say, "Well, I don't know if right now is the best time." And they go, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And then and then they go, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna buy it anyway," right?
Yeah. You do your best to try to help some. I don't know if you do the members and stuff like that. If you do that on your channel.
No, not right now. No, I have too many things going on in my personal life to keep up with that. I just don't have the time. You know, sometimes I think if I had started all of this when I was like 21, I mean, I could have just been crushing it, like all day long doing this thing and just killing it. But the reality is I'm just not at that point in my life anymore. I mean, I'm in my 40s now, and, 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 40s now and I've just got too many things going on the side that I cannot keep up with it. I can't watch the market 24/7 every day. And not only that, you know, I mean, it also, I think it wears on you when you watch it every single day. It can kind of like eat at your soul, and you need to just sort of like step back sometimes, you know?
Oh yeah. Sometimes, like I told you in the last conversation we had there, like I'll do 8 or 9 videos in a day now. And to say that, the reason I do it that way is because I was doing like an hour long, hour and a half, 2 hour long videos when I first got started out again. And the feedback I was getting was videos are too long, right? Which is weird for me because I enjoy the longer videos personally. When someone like with this stream, for example, if I was watching this stream and I'm at work, I would just put it on my phone, put it in the background, and just let it play for 2 hours while we talked.
Yeah.
That's what I like doing. I don't like having to keep going to my phone and finding another video every 15 minutes, right? But in saying that, so I do like 8 or 9 a day, but chopped up into 3 to 7 minute videos, right? So it sounds like a lot, but it's actually, tidbits, of everything diced up. But it still does take a lot of time, and it still takes a lot of energy. And sometimes I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I have a couch over here. I know you can't see it, and I have a screen TV over there. And sometimes I'm like, I just want to go lay down and watch a movie right now,
Yeah. Yeah. You can see, where's my couch? I guess it's right there, right? Yeah.
So it can be tiring, but like I remember once I told you about this. I hadn't done a video in a few hours, and one guy got mad at me and started sending me messages like, "Dude, I'm disappointed. Your content's still dumb." Like, dude, can I have some time to myself? Like, I try, I try to make sure everything's out there, but we all kind of, burn out and stuff. We can't watch the market 24/7.
No, we can't. And, I think we all go through levels of burnout from time to time. I mean, I can't consistently make videos. I can't do it at the pace that you're doing it. I just can't. It's just too much for me. Even when I was my busiest, I think there were a couple weeks where I put out maybe like 5 videos in a week, and each video would take me an entire day to work on. Right. I mean, there was really a lot of work that went into them, and I'd put them out there and say, all right, who else wants me to, talk about this or that? Right. Now I just ask, and they go, oh yeah, talk about this thing, talk about that. Okay, sure. And I look into it, but, I think, maybe half the reason I got burnt out was just the bear market, this past cycle. I mean, it was just brutal. I mean, there's just like, it's like we're on month number 3 and it's still down, and you're like, oh God, and what do you talk about every day? Like, hey, today's the day we're breaking it. And it's like, nope, it's not today.
Yeah. No, not. I find that I find with a lot of my subs anyway, a lot of time they just need, because a big mistake a lot of people make is they'll go to 30 different YouTube channels in a day and hear a bunch of different messages, mixed messages here and there. And so for me, and my followers, I think it's more of like, most of them are not expecting big news, right? I think it's just more of like helping people stay centered, right? When they're having self-doubt. And because I get that a lot, like, man, like, I just you and I have it too. We wake up some days and you just look at the market, you look and you're just like, fuck, another sideways day, man. Like
yeah.
So they just need that person to hop on for 10 minutes and be like, you know what, like, keep on keeping on, kind of thing, right? So
yeah, and you can't understate that. Bitcoin is like just like our moon influences the tides. Bitcoin is like that in crypto. It influences everything. And so that's one of the things that I sometimes have a hard time with. Is it's like, sometimes I feel like Bitcoin's influence is awesome, right? When it's going up, I'm like, heck yeah, everything's tied to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going up. We're all going up, right? But then the flip side of that is like Bitcoin's going down. It's like we're all going down. And you're like, can we deviate from Bitcoin a little bit? You know,
This is bullshit.
Yeah, it's bullshit, and it's like I want it both ways. You know,
Yeah.
I want Bitcoin to bring us up, but I don't want it to tear us down. You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I feel that. I feel that, man. Right in the feels on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crypto Home says, I'm listening at work right now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a great time to listen, you know.
Yeah.
Put on in the background.
I was I like a lot of times, even when I'm driving, I'll just put YouTube on so that I can hear, and that's an easy way for me personally to kind of keep up with stuff that when I'm driving around the city doing things, right? I'll just but the opposite shoot of that is that, you know, it just randomly kicks out a video to you, right, when you're driving. And there was one guy that hopped on, and
Yeah.
his videos, he was live streaming, and he's going on and on while, and I'm just like, he was talking about, he was selling his course, whatever, right? They're selling a course on TA or whatever. And he's literally on his channel telling people, like, listen, I know, you know, some people say my course is a little too expensive and stuff, but it's worth it. And, you know, he says, you can do it. You know, you can, you know, if you have a PlayStation or an Xbox or, you know, a TV, like you can go sell that stuff and buy my, buy my course. I'm like, are you really telling people on your YouTube channel to sell their shit to buy your course? Like, what the hell am I listening to? Oh man, got to be careful out there, man.
Yeah, if you look at some of the biggest like channels and whatnot, they'll usually have not just one course but a couple of them. And in terms of their overall revenue that they make, only a fraction of it comes from YouTube ads. Usually, most of it comes from a course.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, make your course if it's helpful, like if it is a legitimate course, and, you know, make your money, absolutely, but and help your followers. But when you start telling them to sell their personal property to buy your course, it's taking it a little far. I don't know.
Yeah, if they suggest to you selling something that your wife owns, that's when you do not watch that channel again.
Sell your wife's wedding ring. What's the problem?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, she's got too many clothes anyway. Just take a couple of them. She won't notice. Pawn those suckers. Buy my course.
She'll thank you later.
Yeah, she'll actually appreciate that.
Oh shit. So I spoke with Max, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, he's 100% on board with the three of us doing a live stream. I was thinking we'd do a live stream like this kind of thing, and yeah, he's pretty excited about that. So he was talking about it on his channel too. So I think we're gonna have some with that. Yeah, I just have to line it up with you guys because I own my own business, so I'm able to kind of make my own schedule. So that's why whenever I'm talking to you or we're talking about scheduling something, I'm like, well, what works for you? Because I literally am my own boss, right? So I can't be fired.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say if we were doing the three of us, probably a weekend would probably be better for me. Just sometime on the weekend, you know, we could all get on there. Maybe in an evening, you know, that'd be pretty awesome. But I know for like, you know, some of the people out there in Europe, you can't do it too late, or it's like the middle of the night for them. I don't want to do that to them.
It's like 4 a.m. Hey, join our
Yeah, yeah. I know. Go ahead.
Maybe I was thinking maybe like Sunday, like mid-afternoon Sunday, probably leading into early evening kind of thing, like 4 or something like that.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. We could do that.
Because I can't do Saturdays because I also run a nightclub on weekends. So that's a train wreck, let me tell you. My God, like sometimes you're just not in the mood. On Saturday, was it Saturday? Saturday I was there and I was in an awful mood. I wasn't feeling good, and I have a zero tolerance level in my bar for fights, like any kind of violence. Zero tolerance level, right? And so one of my security guys, he pulls this guy into the kitchen to talk to him because the guy's like the guy tried to instigate a fight the following weekend.
Mm.
So my guy's just talking to him while he's sober, like, look, you don't do this kind of thing. Like he was trying to fight someone and egging it on, and despite my guys telling him to stop, and I'm kind of a bigger guy. I'm about 6 foot. I'm about 280 pounds, right? Retired athlete. I'm not a small
Yeah.
man. So I'm just leaving, and it was again. Sometimes I get a little bit cranky, right? I guys talking so nice. I just said, look, because the guy keeps cutting my security guy. I said, look, I'm just gonna put it like this for you. If you get in a fight, I'm gonna kick your ass. I'm gonna kick your friends' asses. I'm gonna kick the guy you're fighting's ass. And I'm gonna kick all your asses. Dude, everyone's getting their ass kicked if you fight.
Yeah, this is not the weekend.
Yeah. It's like, fair enough. Turns out there was no fights.
Good. Yeah, solve that problem.
That's how my weekends go sometimes. Because you're dealing with kids most of the time. Like these guys are, the crowd is mostly like 19 to 25, right?
Yeah, it's pretty young. Okay.
Yeah. I know you got to be 21 to drink down there, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you only got to be
theoretically.
Theoretically. You only got to be 8 here, so.
Yeah, I could see that getting pretty dicey pretty quick, depending on who's there. People naturally have conflict with each other when they're too close, and that's exactly what happens in a nightclub.
Well, it's people. Like if we have a lineup, I'll have one of my security guys go out and they'll walk the line and they'll just pick the attractive women out of the line and pull them to the front of the line and let them in when we can get people in, right? And people always ask, well, why is that? It's sexist for one, but for two, it's really just science at the end of the day. I'll tell you right now, we have a machine that keeps a ratio of male to female, right? As they come in. If you keep it 60 to 40 attractive females over males, you'll never get in any fights. If there's more women than there are men in the bar, right? There's plenty to go around, plenty of women to hit on, whatever the case might be, right? Lots to look at. When in the opposite, if you've got far more men with a lot of testosterone running through their bodies and slim pickings for women, right? To talk to and hit on. What's the second thing guys go to when they're drinking outside of trying to have sex, right?
Yeah. I could see that.
So it's just science at the end of the day. And so when people get mad at you, will you letting the girls in? Hey, don't blame me, blame science, bro. Right?
That'd be a good name for your nightclub, Science.
Yeah, science. Games. We got to come up with a name for our videos.
Yeah, this is what's today? Say Tuesday?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to mull that one over. I was gonna say I think I'm gonna have to drop off momentarily because I can feel myself needing a bathroom break here, and I've actually got to go get my son here momentarily. But we'll have to mull that over. I'm sure we could formulate a good idea.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think it's getting close to you. Got to go get your boy there, right? So.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. That's part of my day every day. This morning I had to drive him to school, and the drive is like 45 minutes, and there's multiple log jam points where, traffic's a gridlock and no one knows where they're going. Everyone's asleep. It's first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
and it was challenging. My wife called me and I was like, I'm stuck at the light. It's been 4 cycles, you know, I'm still here.
Perfect. Well, if there's anything else you want to fire off there before we head her, I will say this quickly, guys. I put Jesse's link down in the description if you want to go shoot him a sub on YouTube. Go check him out as well. Links down below for that. And you got anything left, brother?
Nah, man, I think I'm pretty well spent. I think I've said everything I needed to get out, and I'll need a few minutes to build up some new jokes for our next conversation.
Yeah, fire me a message when you're ready to go again, brother. Maybe I'll talk with Max and we'll see about, like I said, we'll see about a Sunday show or something like that if that Sundays work for you.
All right. I'd be down with that. That'd be fun. Perfect.
All right, guys. Thanks for stopping in, guys. There wasn't too many questions, more just comments. So a lot of comments. So yeah. Okay, guys. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again, Jesse. Thanks for coming on, brother. Let me know if you come up with any names for our broadcasts. And, we'll build this up, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'll be here anytime. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
All right. I'll catch you all later. Till next time.
Till next time.